Hello everyone, this is Mr. Sachin Kharade, Assistant Professor, Kekeba College of Agricultural Biotechnology, Nasik, going to deliver a topic on cell transport, its type of transport across the cell membrane. So, first of all, we will know the simple diffusion term. So, simple diffusion term plays an important role inside the cell transport. So, required no energy. So, the molecules move from area of high concentration to the lower concentration. So, the diffusion is a process called as passive process, which means no energy is used to make the molecule move. They have a neutral kinetic energy. So we can see this is cytoplasmic membrane, and the energy molecule or the molecule which are passed from the plasma membrane equally, there is no need any energy to pass from the semi-permeable membrane, that is plasma membrane. So the diffusion, we can see a simple example here. So we take water inside the beaker and place a drop of dye inside the water. So the diffusion begins. There is a starting of dye molecule to mix with the water, and finally in the C term there is a dye is equally distributed inside the water, and color of water move towards the dye color equally. So this type of mixing of solute to the solvent is not no required any energy. So this term is simply called as diffusion. So diffusion through a membrane is by the solute moves down the concentration gradient from higher concentration to the lower concentration. So we have seen here there is a, in left side there is a high concentration, and in right side there is a low concentration. So molecule will diffuse from higher concentration towards the lower concentration. So the osmosis is one of the most important concept inside the cell transport. So the diffusion of water across a membrane, so it will move from higher water concentration to the lower water concentration. So water is attracted to the solute like a salt, so it will also travel to areas of lower solute concentration to high solute concentration. So we can see in this figure there is a high water concentration at left side and the low water concentration at right side. So these water molecules which move towards the higher solute concentration or the equilibrium. So the diffusion of water across a membrane by higher water concentration to the lower water concentration and low solute concentration to the high solute concentration. So in these cells in a solution there is a three major term, that is isotonic solutions, hypotonic solutions and the hypertonic solutions. So the isotonic solutions, a solution whose solute concentration is the same as the solute concentration inside the cell. So the solute concentration is equal inside the cell and outside the cell. This term is called as isotonic solutions. So isotonic is equal to 5 molecules inside the cell and 5 outside the cell. So the hypotonic solutions whose solute concentration is lower than the solute concentration inside a cell. So we can see in the picture there is a solute concentration is more inside the cell and low inside the low outside the cell. So the water molecule will move outside the cell. So the hypotonic is equal to 5 molecules inside and the 3 molecules outside the cell. So the hypertonic solution whose solute concentration is higher than the solute concentration inside a cell. So we can see in the picture, the solute concentration is more outside and low inside. So the hypertonic is equal to 5 molecules inside and cell and 8 molecules outside. So it will result into, we can see the cell in isotonic solution. So the solute and water concentration are the same inside and outside of the cell. So what is the direction of water movement? The cell is at equilibrium. So no water loss, no water in. So water will flow in both the direction outside and the inside cell. But in hypotonic solution, there is a more concentration of solute inside and the low concentration of solute outside. So what is the direction of water movement? The water is going inside the cell. So water is attracted to the solute inside the cell. So the hypertonic solution, it having the higher concentration of solute outside and the lower concentration of solute inside. So what is the direction of water movement? The water is going out of the cell. So the cell in the solutions, first of all condition and the net movement of water. So the external solution is hypotonic to the cytosol. So the into the cell, so water molecule get inside the cell. So the external solution is hypertonic to the cytosol. So the water molecule moves outside the cell. Then the external solution is isotonic. Then the equilibrium of water molecule is happen. So the cell in the solution, that is isotonic solution, hypertonic solution and the hypotonic solution, we can see the examples are if isotonic solution, no net movement of water, equal amount of leaving and entering into the cell. But in hypotonic solution, that is cytolysis or burst of cell, and the hypertonic solution, shrinkage of cell or plasmolysis will happen. So the cells in the solution, that is cytolysis, the destruction of an cell or cell swells and burst. So the plasmolysis is the cell shrinking of cell and cell shrink and shrivel. So the cytolysis and plasmolysis, we can see here, there is a cell and a cell placed in a distilled water. So the distilled water get inside and cell uh, swell and burst and it will lead to the cytolysis. But inside the if we cell placed in a concentrated salt solution, it cell shrink and shrivel, so result into the plasmolysis. So osmosis in the red blood cell, that is isotonic solution, hypertonic solution, and hypotonic solution as is described in the picture. So we can see there is no any action on the cell. So it is in hypotonic solution. There is a cell water inside the cell, and the hypertonic solution, that is shrinkage of cell. So osmosis in the plant and animal cell, the structure and function. The drawing below shows the appearance of the red blood cell and plant cell in the isotonic solution, hypotonic solution, and the hypertonic environment. So label each environment in the space provided. So this is the assignment. Then the three forms of transport across the membrane, that is passive transport, active transport, First of all, the passive transport, it is simple diffusion. Material moves down in the concentration gradient through the phospholipid bilayer. So the facilitated diffusion, the passage of material is aided both by a concentration gradient and by the transport protein. So the active transport is molecules again move through a transport protein, but now energy must be expended to move them against their concentration gradient. So it is, we can call it as active transport. So the passive transport, simple diffusion. So the simple diffusion doesn't require any energy. Moving higher to the lower concentration, example, oxygen or water diffusing into the cell and carbon dioxide diffusing out. So it does not require any energy. So the simple diffusion in or out, we can call it as a passive transport by the plasma membrane. So the passive transport facilitated diffusion does not require any energy. Use transport protein to move higher to the lower concentration. Example, glucose or amino acid moving from the blood into the cell. So the proteins are crucial to membrane functions like structural support, then the recognition, then the communication, and the transport of molecules. So the facilitated diffusion molecule will randomly move through the pores in channel protein. So the channel protein having the pore channel or the space to move the molecules randomly from outside or to inside. By the transport protein, channel proteins are embedded in the cell membrane and have a pores of material to cross. So the carrier proteins can change shape to move material from one side of the membrane to the other side. So the facilitated diffusion, some carrier proteins does not extend through the membrane. They bond and drag molecule phospholipid bilayer and release them on the opposite side. So the active transport requires energy or ATP. So moving moves material from lower to the higher concentration against concentration gradient. So the molecule against move through a transport protein, but now energy must be expended to move them against their concentration gradient. So we can see if any material want to enter, it requires energy. So this term is called as active transport. For example, pumping sodium ions out and potassium ions in, so against concentration gradient called the sodium potassium pump. So it requires energy. So the 3 Na pump in for every 2K pump out, so creates a membrane potential. So the active transport, that is exocytosis. So exocytosis type of active transport moving throughout. Molecules are moved out of the cell by vesicle that fuse within the plasma membrane. This is how many hormones are secreted and how nerve cells communicated with each other. So exocytosis vesicles immediately after fusion with plasma membrane. So the active transport endocytosis, large molecule moves material into the cell by one of the three form of endocytosis, that is pinocytosis, receptor mediated endocytosis, and the phagocytosis. So active transport is pinocytosis, that is most common from the endocytosis. Takes in dissolved molecules in a vesicle. So this plasma membrane plays a vesicle role, and this molecule enter inside the vesicle, and the vesicle will get inside the cell. So this called as the pinocytosis. So the cell form an investigation material dissolved in water to be brought into cell called as cell drinking. So it is called as pinocytosis. And the pinocytosis transport across capillary cells, that is blue. So the receptor mediated endocytosis means some integral proteins have receptors on their surface to recognize and take in hormones or cholesterol. So this picture will indicates the receptor mediated endocytosis. So the active transport or receptor mediated endocytosis, which is given in the picture. So the phagocytosis means used to engulf a large particle such as a food, bacteria, etc. into the vesicle, and we can call it as a seal eating. So the phagocytosis about to occurs. So this is the microscopic picture. So the phagocytosis captures of an parasite green by membrane extension of an immune system cell, that is orange. So with this basic information of various diffusion types, active transport, passive transport, then the various types of active transport, various types of passive transport, the transport in between cell or outside the environment will happen. So thank you very much for the listening.